So a couple of years ago, this one guy wrote me, and his name was Storm, and he wanted to learn my method of what's called the crutch drill, which I learned at the school that I was teaching at. And it's a larger version of the bow drill. And so what I did was I made him a video many years ago just to show him how it was done. It's pretty self-explanatory. He had a lot of friction fire experience already, so it was very easy for him to understand just by seeing it done. I found out later that he had passed away, and I was reading some of his articles that he has on his website. It's stoneageskills.com, and he did a lot of thorough experimentation with hand drills and a bunch of other materials, and he especially did experiments with the no-notch method, which I don't teach. And he himself said that you have to use very low density woods to even try to pull that off. And he said he only got it 28% of the time, or some kind of statistic like that. So if you want to attempt the no-notch method, okay, where's that here? The containment or notch, the variation of that being the no-notch, which isn't recommended, but in training you're welcome to try it. I myself only did it one time just to see if I could do it, but I would never rely on it in a real situation. We did that with a mullen stalk. StoneAgeSkills.com. He actually made a table of the woods that he did, that he experimented with to achieve that no-notch coal, and he listed as well as listing his failures as well as his successes. So he was very scientific about it, very thorough, and I highly recommend that you look at that and review that. Another thing too is that I'm really going to be going over mostly East Coast material, because I live on the East Coast. I don't have quick access to West Coast material, and but Storm lived on the West Coast, and most of his woods that he experimented with were West Coast material. So if you would like a list of some good West Coast materials, he also has that there too on his website, stoneageskills.com. The website was left up in remembrance of him. He would have wanted you to make use of it. It's very informative, so I would go there and look for things like that. He's got a lot of other good stuff on there too. All right, just to keep that in mind. All right. Okay, using our equation again, let's say our life need, our problem that needs to be solved, the structure that needs to be created in this instance is that, let's say we've been doing the hand drill for a little bit now, and your hands are probably as raw and blistered and calloused as mine, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but there's really no way around it. I said that this is probably the toughest method you're going to learn. But our health variable, as well as our energy variable, is really coming into play. Now you're starting to understand it more and more. And but how can we deal with this variable? How can we create some things that may help us in fulfilling the function of resolving our health issue, which is basically our hands, saving our hands? How do we solve that? How do we create that? Our equation again is going this way. Function, balance the variables, create a form. Okay? Let me show you a couple things. Now, some examples of some other things I want to show you are what's called thumb loops. Now, these pieces of cordage are attached to the top of your hand drill, which is usually a stout piece. It's usually when you're your hand drill is of some kind of a harder wood, not one of the hollows. And your thumbs go in these loops, and you can pull pressure downward on top of the spindle, and therefore get more pressure without you just slipping down the spindle. So this one is made out of 2 pouches of leather tied with a piece of cordage. I'm going to show you how all of these work. Now, this is the top of a cannon bone of a deer. It's a cannon bone is like a leg bone. It's hollow, and this is a joint section. And what I've done is I filed the inside a little bit to make sure it's smooth and doesn't cut into the spindle. And I just took a little bit of epoxy and applied that to the cordage on the top. Now, you could put a little bit of lubricant inside the cup here, the bone, in order to reduce friction on the top, because we only want friction in one place, and that's where the spindle meets the base. There should be no friction anywhere else, and you should be transferring friction from your hands to the spindle to the base. And if you're not efficiently applying that friction, it's going back into your hands, and it's causing things like blisters and calluses and things like that. So I'm going to show you how that one works. And this was a bamboo node. As you know, the bamboos have nodes. They have sections in them that are straight across, and the chambers are hollow. And again, you put a piece of some kind of lubricant in there, some kind of oil, something slippery, slime mold, snot, whatever it is you got. And this one, I've drilled a hole through both sides so that the cordage could loop through. And here's some simple thumb loops this way. And here's a great one, which I only heard about, I never saw. But someone had used a shot glass for a bow drill handhold, which I'll show later. But I thought it might make a great hand drill thumb loop cup for the top. So I'll show you how that one works too. And again, you apply more pressure by pulling downward this way on top of the spindle through the cord. Some people call them cheaters. I say whatever you gotta do to get a fire in whatever method possible. So if you're gonna do the friction fire. So let's show you how those work. Okay, so I'm going to use this hardwood dowel, 3/8 inch, one with the reload method here of the bamboo chamber that's attached by the hose clamps, and a piece of yucca on the end. And we're going to take a little bit of oil, linseed oil, put that on the end. And that's going to fit inside our cannon bone one, and we're just going to work that around a little bit. Now our thumbs go in the thumb loops, just like this, okay? And we're going to fit that right on our pine board example, and I'm going to show you face on that you gotta pull down with your thumbs and your arms, and you just spin the stock that way. So we're getting good pressure, getting good speed. You can see there's a lot of smoke pouring out of the base. And we got our coal. Look at that. So that was yucca with pine, and that was lumber pine from a hardware store. There we go. And now I'm going to show you the example of the bamboo one here, the bamboo node. And we're going to put a little bit of oil inside that to get rid of any kind of friction, unnecessary friction on top. And we put our thumbs in the loops. Okay. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to actually choke up on these thumb loops by because these are a little too long. Okay. This other one I have made is designed where this is the fiberglass one that's about 2.5 feet long, and how this one works is the thumb loops, you notice there's no cap on top. What it does is I put a arrow knock on the end of this one, and the cordage just fits right on the arrow knock and rests that way. If you had a piece of hardwood, you would file. I wouldn't recommend cutting, but sawing or filing some kind of knock in the end of your hardwood if you're going to do it that way. And then your thumb loops go through here, and it spins this way. So here I have my ratchet piece with the yucca reload, and that'll go right on the end of the fiberglass, which has the ratchet adapter on it. I put my thumbs in the loops. Just like that. Just warm it up a little bit. You can see how that one works. You can see the smoke out of that one. And then I'll show you the last one. Alright, so here I've put my thumbs through the loops of the shot glass one. And all this cordage is epoxied on there actually to keep it from slipping off, because obviously it's glass and it would slip off anyway. So we're back to our hardwood dowel here with the yucca insert, and I'll just show you real quick how this one would look. And the thing is with this one, it doesn't even need oil because, well, it's glass. So there's no friction at all. And you can see the smoke pouring out of this one. Okay. And those are some examples of thumb loops. Next thing. So definitely, at least by now, your hands are pretty shot. Okay, I know mine are. I mean, you can't not get away without getting blisters after doing hand drills so many times. So I remember once reading this article, and again it was on that website, Primitive Ways. There's a guy that's a plumber, and he has very sensitive hands. And like me too, you know, I'm a nurse and I have to do IVs and things like that on little kids. So I have to be able to still be able to feel my hands. Like, they can't be all calloused and really rough on my patients. So I try to take it easy on my hands as well. And he did this thing once that I saw where he used the soles of his shoes. He took off his sneakers and he would use them to help apply the friction on the spindle of the hand drill as he used the thumb loop method. So I bought a pair of cheap flip-flops, and what I did was I put a backing on it because flip-flops, as you know, are very flexible. But when you're doing this technique, you can't have too much bend because it'll take away from the pressure. The pressure will go off in another direction, and you need that pressure centered onto the spindle. So I'm going to put my thumbs through these loops, and we're going to put it on our white fiberglass shaft here. Okay, you can see that. And I'm going to get my two flip-flop handles here, and we're going to put that here like this, and we're going to have a go. Ready? See if we can't save our hands a little bit. I don't know if you can see the smoke down there, but it's working very well. We got some dust pouring out of there, some smoke. But I want to show you another trick too, because sometimes the flip-flops can be still too inflexible. And what I did was I got myself some ping pong paddles. Now they have the rubber grips on them already. And what I did was I took off the handles because obviously they would be in the way. And I just want to show you how these work. So I'm going to take these, put the shot glass on top of there. Thumb loop. Let's see if we can't save our hands this way. See the smoke pouring out? And my hands are saved from blistering. My hands have no friction on them whatsoever. I just have to keep everything centered. So, and there we go. But I really like the ping pong paddles because they don't move at all. They're not flexible. So if you keep a straight line along the spindle, it's going to work really, really well. Okay. So, be really tough to kind of find something like this in nature where it would really grip the spindle. But it'll definitely save your hands. And again, that health variable is very, very important. So, and remember, keep on balancing all of your variables. Okay. Make sure you're following your need. Increase your skills and your confidence. Keep your ability to reason and problem solve. Whatever means and resources you need in order to be able to manipulate the environment to get yourself a friction fire. The chemical composition of your wood. The moisture, the humidity. Keep in mind the density and the hardness. With hand drill, the lower the density, the better, because you are the pressure. The fuel that's created, and remember that's one of the fire triangles. The containment of their notch has to be carved just perfectly. Make sure enough air gets to it once so that it can achieve ignition, and again that's one of the fire triangle components. You are the pressure in the hand drill, and there's those two kinds of pressure, the temperature and the abrading factor, which makes the fuel. We have temperature, that important critical ignition temperature, which is vital because it's again also one of the fire triangle components. You must have the back and forth reciprocation motion or it won't work. Remember we did the drill going in one direction with all that pressure and all that speed, all those rotations going in one direction and still no coal. Make sure you keep a straight line, your axis, or later when we do the linear motions, the linear strokes. Your rotations, get as many rotations as you can. Don't just do short ones. Your duration and time, you have to be able to keep going as long as you can until you get that coal, or you have to do it as many times as you need to until you do get one. But you always want to try and do it on the first one to save for your economy of energy. Get as much speed as you can to increase that temperature. Make that dust. Make sure you have enough space in order to complete your method. Make sure your material has enough surface area, or if it has too much surface area, you need to lessen it because you are the pressure, and that's going to require more energy. Make sure your set is stable so you don't destroy the work that you're trying to accomplish. Make sure you maintain your health. Don't hurt yourself, don't hurt others, don't destroy your hands too badly, and keep an eye on your energy because you're the things that make these things work. So, and all of them together will get you friction fire, and in this case, the hand drill. Now I'm going to show you this other little funny invention that I came up with that I had mentioned before. And these are a pair of work gloves. And what I've done is I've epoxied a strip of Velcro to the last three fingers, if you could see that, on both sides of these gloves. So I have the thumb and the first finger available to be able to grab stuff. And what I've done here is I've taken two ping pong paddles and I've cut them into rectangles. Okay. And on the back is the other half of those Velcro strips. And These paddles, what makes them great though is that they're the small pieces of plywood. They're stiff and they won't flex. And so what we do is we place these right on the gloves like this. Now I like these better than using the shoe method or even the free, just using the ping pong paddles by themselves, because I can't really get a grip on them very well while I'm trying to spin. So this really stays on here really good. So I have the first finger and the thumb free to be able to pick stuff up, and the board is nice and flat up against these three, and it doesn't go anywhere. So put the other one on. This kind of looks really funny, kind of like penguin hand, something like that, right? So I got these two boards. They're both Velcroed in. Okay. Now we'll do this method by thumb loops. So we're going to put these thumb loops on here. There's one. This is why I kept the thumb and the first finger free. And as you can see, the spindle will ride in between the two paddles. So let's give this a go, shall we? If you could see. And my baseboard happens to be a piece of bamboo. I think the plug, the reload is yucca. Now, as you can see, I've kept the rubber surface of the ping pong paddle on there, and that's necessary for the grip of the friction to be able to be applied. You can see we're getting some smoke. We're getting dust. That's going really well. And the great thing about all this, no blister. And we got our coal. Now, if there was ever a way to pretty much resolve entirely the health variable to save your hands and not get blisters, well, I have to say that's a pretty good one. I love the gloves. Isn't that pretty cool? I know it's kind of... And there they are, hanging by the thumb loops. So, advanced hand drill. Advanced hand drill method. So this is that left to right equation, unique solution creation that we're trying to do. So we go from function to balancing the variables to creating a structure or a form or a method that works out well for us. Just playing around. So we're just jazzing. We're away from the scales now and we're playing jazz. Okay, let's keep going. Let's close up on that. That was a pretty good call. So in our fourth and last segment, Epimethea, or my afterthoughts. When you're learning these methods, I say find yourself your favorites. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's like you're having fun with it. Have a favorite method, or find your favorite method, find your favorite techniques, find your favorite materials. Mine's obviously bamboo. You know, make it very personal. You know, brand it for yourself, kind of thing. when you're passing something on, you're transmitting something, give credit where credit's due. Like the guy I saw on YouTube with the, actually on the internet, the plumber, the engineer with the shoes, doing the hand drill with the thumb loops. That was really great. So he gets, kudos for that, and that allows me to learn. That allowed me to learn a lot, and to be able to pass that on to you. Things like that. Remember to always save your dust whenever you're doing a method, and whether you get a success or a fail, whether you get a call or a fail, remember to save your dust. Have your little container readily at the side, and just fill that up. I even have a little brush that I use to, sweep up all the dust into the little container. Have that ready. Know when to take a break. You've been when you start to have successes, or you're very frustrated with your fails, you have to know when to kind of just stop and kind of take it easy for a little while. Especially when you're doing a hand drill, you got to really save your hands. It may be just longer than a break. You may need to stop for about a week, maybe move on to a different method for a little while. Nothing wrong with that. Just keep your life balanced, though. That kind of thing. After a while, you're going to start to intuitively kind of start to balance all the variables. It takes a little bit of time. When you start seeing a new method, you're able to run through, the right to left, the identifying and clarifying and understanding kind of thing really quickly. And you'll notice that the more we go over the methods, I start to introduce something and you just kind of start to get it right away, because you're better able to see the patterns. You're better able to go from the assessment right to the diagnosis, where oh, I could see it. And then all of a sudden in your head, you can kind of plan how you're going to be able to pull the method off, or do the technique, or do the form. And of course, the fun is in just doing it and then seeing if it really worked out for you. You're going to evaluate that. Did you get a call or a fail? Just keep going. And then you're going to start playing along with stuff after you got it, and you're going to go from left to right on the equation, and you're going to jazz and kind of fool around and make stuff up, and keep it fun, and show your friends and other people that are interested in doing this kind of thing. Show them what you got, what you came up with. Make a YouTube video, those kind of things. Be safe. Always clean up. Know your plant and tree identification. Oh, here's another important thing. Don't trespass. When you're collecting materials, always have permission of the property owner. Even stuff that's stuff that you see on the side of the road. Make sure that you're following all your local laws and stuff like that. You're not going to get in trouble. A police officer pulls up behind you and gives you a ticket for whatever reason. So just do the right thing. If you can get permission, get permission. Again, be careful you're following all the local laws and things like that regarding fire making. If you need to contact your fire marshal or things like that and get a permit, please do so. Kind of know what the culture is in your neighborhood before you start making fires and stuff like that. Oh, another thing that I didn't really mention too was to, when you're doing your hand drill, your hands actually might be too dry for friction. You may want to wet your hands. A lot of times you see on videos of natives, they'll spit in their hands. I know they did that in Quest for Fire in the movie, but that little bit of moisture actually doesn't decrease friction, it actually increases it. So you actually get a better grip on the spindle for spinning. So keep that in mind about the moisture of your hands, that they're not too dry. If it's too dry, it may just kind of slip down farther. So be economic in your technique and your form. Are you integrated? Are you using your body mass, your body weight to the best of your ability? And just keep an eye on stuff. Make sure all your spindles are nice and straight. If you need to straighten them, heat them up over near a fire, don't burn them, but just kind of heat them up and get them bent, kind of like the old way of straightening arrows kind of thing. If you got a zigzag kind of stalk, like the burdock stalks are a lot like that, they have the zigzag, you're not going to get those things out. So the best thing for you to do is find the straightest zigzag that you could find if you're going to do that. Definitely don't get one with like with a severe bend in it. Don't make it hard on yourself, right off the bat. If you're going to play around later, and see what you can pull off, that's fine. But get some successes under your belt first. So another afterthought is transferring your coal from your base to the tinder bundle. Now there's kind of two real schools of thought on this. One is that you have something underneath your base already, and when your coal is formed there, or even if you don't get a coal and you just have dust and you want to save your dust, you got to transfer that somewhere. Okay. Now, one of the main real reasons why you have something under your base to begin with is to prevent moisture getting to your coal as it forms. If the ground has humidity or moisture, for example, out here out on the East Coast, that could transfer. So you need a barrier, and a lot of times usually that's a piece of bark or something like that, or a very dry leaf. Here I have a piece of birch bark, and that can go right under there. It's nice and thin. And the thing about what goes underneath the base is that it should be thin enough where it doesn't ruin the stability of the base. It's not going to let it move around while it sits underfoot or under your knee or something like that. Here's a thicker piece of bark, and you can see it's a little curved, and what that can do is throw off the stability of the base if you're not careful. Now this is probably stable enough if you have pressure on it, but it's probably not a big deal here. So it's thin enough, so that'll balance out, that'll work. Here I have a cattail leaf, so that's just big enough to just fit in there. Covers the distance of the wedge right there, and if you roll this up, the coal will be there, and you transfer that into your tinder bundle. Here I just have a sliver of wood, and that fits nice under there. And what's nice about the wood is it's really sturdy. It's not too flimsy. Now the cattail leaf can be a little flimsy. I have here a maple seed carrier, and this is like paper, so you would have to be really careful with this. In fact, that could probably burn through by the time you get that transferred if you're not careful. Okay, so lift the coal up, put it in your tinder bundle. Here I have a dead dry leaf, which would be good for transfer right there. Transfer your coal, or have a piece of card here, and that could work. Piece of paper. Basically anything that'll help you transfer to your tinder bundle is going to be good, and acts as a barrier for the ground for moisture. Now the other school of thought is that you take not your whole tinder bundle, but a piece of your tinder bundle, and that is your little bit of barrier as well as your transfer, because you're not going to put your whole tinder bundle underneath to pick up moisture. You just put a little bit maybe, and then you would take this little bit and put the whole thing inside your tinder bundle and blow that into flame. Okay. If you want to be extra cautious with your barrier, you could have your barrier, your little bit of tinder bundle, and then your base on top of that, and that way there'll be no moisture. And then you put that in your tinder bundle. So as long as you follow that principle of having a barrier against moisture and humidity for your tinder bundle and to the coal, and being able to get to transfer that coal to the tinder bundle. Or if you didn't get a coal, transferring that powder and saving it with the rest of your dust, putting that in your container for later for coal extender, right? Because we want to save that. All right, let's keep going. Now, one of the other things I wanted to go over is a container for your method to go in this case your hand drill. And now your case really only need be something long, maybe cylindrical. I mean, it could be box-like if you want, but I'll use this clear one just for demonstration. But your spindle goes in there, as well as your baseboard, okay? And depending on how much room you have, you figure out what's going to go in there, as well as your tinder. I mean, you can even put your knife in there if you want, right? If that'll fit in there. And then everything is just all in one. You may also want to put some coal extender in there, especially if you're doing hand drill. Coal extender is like really nice to have if you're doing hand drill, just for that added security. So, but I know I mentioned this a million times. I'm going to say it a million times more. Bamboo is really my favorite. Again, it's a grass, not a tree or a plant. And here I have a bamboo tube. The node is still intact on the end. The node is open on the front end here. There's a little bit of seagrass tied here just for, well, basically just for aesthetic reasons. And here in this case, this is for a really light set. So I have my two favorite bamboo spindles, so they can go right in there. See that? And you can see you can check the size here, right? So those fit right in there. I have my bamboo base that fits right in there, and I can just take some tinder. Make sure that doesn't get stuck in there, okay? And just put that right there, right near the entrance, so you could just pop that right out. And you want some kind of cap, just a little carved cap. Keep that right in there, just to keep everything intact. All right, and that's it. This is my little case for the hand drill, since I like bamboo so much. So, all right, but you can get creative and make a case any way you want. For basically all of my stuff, I keep stuff in a bucket or in a tote. Usually those are my favorite things to keep things in. But if I want something simple to just carry around, just this one thing, it's all right. Right here in this one case. All right, let's keep going. So this is the fire dojo, and in dojo what we do is we do training. Now this isn't like a seminar where we just say things, review things once quickly and you're expected to know it. In training we go over things very thoroughly so that they're understood very well. So here the equation, we're actually going to go this way this time. Used for understanding, identifying function and or purpose. Well, one of the things I can't stress enough is plant and tree identification or shrub identification, anything that's in the vegetarian world. Things could be potentially harmful. Again, we have our health issue to deal with. So I'm going to show you a couple examples that come right from my own backyard. I want you to take a look at this. But in knowing what it is that you're seeing, okay, how do you figure that out? So you have to look at the structure and the form, understand what the variables of that is, and then understand its function. So here the equation is going this way for identification and understanding. Again, this way it goes for trying to create something that we need to solve a problem. In this way, we are again solving a problem, but it's used for the purpose of finding out what something is and what it's used for. All right? So here's an example of plant and tree identification. So before, I had quickly mentioned what are called nascent growths. And here I'm coming upon a box elder tree. And this is a box elder tree that's in my backyard. And what are coming off of it are nascent growths. These little branches that are coming off the trunk of the tree are nascent growths. These things here, got some good ones here. These go by another name called suckers. And I don't have any that are already finished. This is poison ivy that I'm touching actually right here. So I'm going to go inside and wash my hands with some detergent. But this is box elder, and you can see it looks really close, right? This is box elder, poison ivy. Box elder, poison ivy. So I got fooled myself, but I know how to take care of that. So I don't have any nascent growths ready. And what you do is you cut these and you tie them together so that they stay straight, and you let them dry. Okay, and I don't have any ready. So what I'm going to do is it's now August, and I'm going to wait for winter before I collect these. In the dead of winter, the leaves will be off. Most of the moisture will be out of it in the dead of winter. And then I'm going to cut them and tie them together. So I'm going to wait till then to cut these. And then we'll see how they work later in the year after I've stored them. So again, remember, your plant and tree identification are really key, just by that one lesson alone right there. Okay, let's keep going. Just to reaffirm, if you remember my story about when I went to go visit that professor that teaches stone tools, Dr. Callahan, he did say that thing about, are you here to make arrowheads, or are you here to learn how to make stone tools? Well, just to reiterate that we are here learning the life-supporting skill of fire keeping, okay? So we're not just, making fires. We're not just making fires, F-I-R-E. We're making fires that support life, P-H-Y-R-E. Those kind of fires, okay? So this is, I consider this a life-supporting skill, and you have to respect its we're attracted to the life-promoting ability of it, and we need to really respect its life-destructive capability. And remember, you are always fully responsible for anything and everything that you do. No one else is to blame. Okay. And I'll leave it at that for now. All right. And we'll do some more troubleshooting things with other methods too as well when we come across them. And speaking of troubleshooting, I probably mentioned it before, but one of the best heights for your hand drills is maybe about 18 inches. And when you start to get shorter than that, it starts to get more uncomfortable. So when you start to get really good, that's when you start practicing with shorter and shorter stalks, shorter spindles. Okay. Now your bases, now you see that on my bamboo one, I had one that was probably about just about 3 inches. Well, as long as you can keep that stable, that's fine. So, I mean, your base could even be, 1 square half inch, if you could keep it stable. But really the key to the length of your base is what allows you to keep it stable. And whether it's underfoot or under your knee, or you have another piece of wood that you're kneeling on to keep it stable, or you've got it pinned to the ground with sections of bamboo, whatever that takes. So make your pieces, manipulate them to the point where you're going to get yourself a success. Balance those variables, figure it out. All right? And we're going to move on to our next method, the mouth drum. All right? Let's keep going.